Hello.
Hello, DJ Brockout.
Hey, bud. What's up?
Not much, man. How you doing?
I'm good, man. Good.
All right, before we get started, I gotta let the listeners know this is DJ Brockout. We've been playing, I won't say tag, it's been my fault. We were supposed to get this started over 50 minutes ago, and I've been on the road. And I appreciate you taking the time, man. Thank you.
No worries, man. Always got time for you, bud.
Yeah, thank you. I'm sorry. It is, whenever this is posted, I don't know, but it's currently Sunday morning around 10 to 11 Eastern Time, and I've been out since around 6:30 this morning, taking in our beautiful world, our beautiful downtown culture, and there's nothing better than Toronto on a Sunday morning around 7:30, 8 o'clock. You get to see some of the loveliest of people.
Yeah, I could imagine. I remember they always have people doing yoga and stuff down there in the summertime in the mornings. It was kind of cool to see.
You know what? I'm being facetious in a sense. Those kinds of people, you know those Tai Chi people you see around like 6 o'clock, the Asian people out there doing their...
Yeah, I think that's what I'm talking about. They wear all like the yellow or the orange robes and stuff like that. Right?
Yeah, that's cool, man. I'm talking more about Crackhead Joe coming out of the comfort zone.
Oh, well, those are a different type of breed of people, man.
And you know what? I have to honestly admit, I was there once. That's when I look at them, I'm like, oh my God, we were horrible.
Hey man, we're all kids once, but you gotta grow up and you gotta get life on track and how it is, right?
I totally know what you mean, and thank God we did. I was kind of, what you're saying reminds me. I was talking to a guy at work about a guy from high school, and he was a loser. He used to da-da-da, and he's like, dude, you used to do that stuff. I'm like, yeah, but here's the difference. I wasn't the 19-year-old that used to buy the liquor for the 14-year-olds. I was never that guy. If you were that guy,
it's different, man.
Do you remember the guy I'm talking about? Like, it's a euphemism, you know what I mean? It's not an actual specific...
Yeah, the guy with the 16-year-old girlfriend?
Yes, that guy. You remember him. Probably had a house near the high school. He didn't even go to the school anymore. He just hung around it.
Yeah, around at lunchtime.
Okay, with that, let's jump into this. I've got some fun questions, I guess, before we dive into the hard ones.
Okay.
First one I'll ask you is... I got to shout out Biggs for giving me this one. When you tie your shoe, how do you do it? Do you use the two bows or do you do the wraparound?
I do the wraparound. I'm left-handed, so I find the wraparound to be a bit easier than the two bows because I have more control, you know.
Okay. I don't know if it. Here's the thing. The two bows for me. I feel somewhat childish. I'm actually insecure when I go to tie my shoes. I'll make sure nobody's looking because I feel like
you still sing like the bunny rabbit.
I don't in my head.
Or
in my head.
The rabbit ears.
Around the hole, in the hole. There he goes, or whatever it was.
That was Biggs' question.
Yeah, actually, I have to say because
big up Chris.
Big up Chris, exactly. He's actually reached out to try and help me with what I'm doing here, and. He said he liked the way I was giving quirky questions, and he said he actually had the idea to do something like this years ago, and he said one of the questions he had come up with was that question. So I said, I'm taking your question, man. We're gonna use it.
It's a good icebreaker.
It is. Okay, with that, I gotta ask, are you a superhero guy? There's a lot with superheroes right now. Are you into this whole superhero craze?
No, I don't really watch much TV. I mean, I watch movies and that when it's time, but for the most part, I try to stay away from going to the movies and TV and all that kind of stuff,
I get you. Okay, then what was the last song you were listening to before you and I spoke?
I can actually tell you right now. It's called Raver by Dimension. I heard a bunch of people drop of that Rampage on those live feeds that were going last night. And I was like, what the hell is that tune? And then I woke up this morning. Someone had posted it. I was like, boom, there it is.
Yeah, it doesn't really... You can't really Zeusk a drum and bass song, can you?
Yeah. No, yeah, exactly. It's like, we don't know what you're talking about.
Exactly that. And let's talk about Rampage for a second. That was actually amazing, was it not? Like,
that is a rave, man. I'm actually thinking about going next year, as much as crazy as that sounds, but just to go there and experience it,
And I guess to my listeners that maybe don't know what Rampage was, it was and correct me if I'm wrong, Jerry. It was a 2-day party out in England, and they had it broadcast live over the internet. Everyone who was anyone from London, England, was performing at it. And sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Sorry, man.
Well, I was just gonna say I caught some of the beginning acts. They were names I had never heard before. But then as it progressed. This is on Friday night. I think I heard X-Men come on, and then Andy C and Ton Piper came on.
Yeah.
And then I did not catch last night, but I heard somebody put on the SAS is on.
Yeah, that's what I watched. It was good. I also watched Chasing Status, which was pretty good as well.
It was it brought me back to
It was in Antwerp as well. I think. I don't think it was in London. I believe it was in Belgium. It's like Belgium's biggest party of the year kind of thing.
Okay, Antwerp. But yeah, and it brought me back to when I was a child. I used to go to the library just to go on Drum and Bass Arena and watch the parties. And
yeah, exactly.
that's what it was like. But what a venue, man! Like, yeah, I don't know why I thought it was England, because that venue was nowhere in England.
But yeah, it looks like a Superdome, like a sports dome or something they were in, like some crazy, almost like a ACC type of kind of place, you know? Like that was no club. Like that place was crazy. It was like, I don't know if you've seen much of the lasers and the smoke machines and all that stuff, and like the graphics, but it was unbelievable. Like I've never seen anything like that before.
Well, and that's the thing. That's not your typical what we used to call it the DMX system. And the DMX system is basically just a software that plugs into any mixer that can then be incorporated with the lights. And as the music plays,
that's intelligent. That's intelligent what they got going on there, man.
This is. I think there's actually manual stuff going on. I don't think they're just letting a computer program do all that. I think there's somebody, because you're right. That was intense. The stage lights, the way the speakers were doing what they were doing, and then the lasers in sync. It was
absolutely
really
crazy.
And it was cool. You know what else was neat? Was watching it fill up. You know, like when you first tuned in, it was an empty venue, and then you slowly got to see it populate. And as you saw it populate, you realized how big it really was.
Yeah, it's got to be easily 20,000 people there, man. Easily.
It's awesome.
And that's probably undercoding as well. That's just my guess.
It's nice to know that many people would show up for a drum and bass party. Do you know who the promoter? Like Rampage was obviously the promotion. Who is behind that? Do you know?
You know, I don't have a clue, man. I'm not really connected into like the big party scene over in Europe. I've only been over there once, so.
I get you. Well, I'm gonna have to do some investigative journalism, I guess.
Yeah, no doubt.
With that,
I'm sure it won't be hard to figure it out.
Well, no, and I have to say, people are very. I don't know. People offer information with no problem. Nobody's holding cards to their chest. They just, a lot of people like yourself don't know. So I just gotta dig.
I know about the party. Because a friend of mine, Jayline, he played there a few years ago, and he was telling me it was like, dude, it's like a dream. You go out there and it's just like a sea of like people. I would imagine playing on that stage would be like fucking, I'm sorry, DJ career goal. Sorry, I dropped the F-bomb.
It's okay. We could drop. I said to somebody I spoke to the other day, actually, because he said, "Can you swear?" And I said, "Well, I can fucking swear because nobody's fucking listening to me." But
okay, well, in my normal everyday speech, there's F-bombs being dropped on the regular. A bunch of yeah buts too.
And that's fine. Me worrying about swearing, I said, would be like the high school drug dealer that got mad when you said dime bag on his cell phone. He'd be like, dude, don't say that on my... It's like, dude, you're selling dimes at a high school. You think anybody's listening to you? Like,
yeah, no doubt.
So I put myself in that same category. One thing I would say about the stage that I found very cool was, you just said it'd be really cool to perform on a stage of that size. But performing at a WEMP, for instance, it was somewhat lackluster in a sense that we didn't have enough people around us. So the stage was empty. But with the way that they populated that stage with the extracurriculars, if you will, it really had it fit, it worked, you know, and the MC didn't look naked up there. Like, I thought that they had a good presence. Everything about it was just flawless.
Yeah, during the SAS one, it looked really good too, because they had one guy on each side of the ends of the DJ booth, and then Shata was in the middle. And like, they're all short enough that the graphics from the DJ booth, because it's raised up so high, they're completely inside the graphics, you know what I mean? So it looks kind of cool. I'm sure there's going to be some awesome pictures coming out of that.
I know exactly what you mean, man. It reminds me of an old picture of Shabba D from Soundclash, where it wasn't a screen, it was a laser, but it was doing like an X, and he happened to be right behind, like the X hit the center of his back. So when you're looking at it from the crowd, it looked like he was in this tunnel of X's, and it was just hypnotic, man. It's really cool.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, whoever the photographers there, I bet they had a really good time doing that kind of event.
I bet. Okay, let me ask you this. Do you remember your first rave experience?
Yeah. I don't remember the exact date, but I know it was DJ Rap, Kenny Ken, and it was in Toronto at the Docks.
Yeah, I remember the party.
98. I think it was in the summertime, maybe June-ish. Yeah, my first experience. And that was sucked, man. From the first time, dude. It was a bad case.
Well, okay, were you a DJ at that point, or did the rave
No,
call?
no,
Okay.
not at all, man. It was quite the opposite. I used to be a bass player in a band, and I used to hang out with like a group of people in my town. And one of them, my buddy Kevin, he was into drum and bass, and I went to hang over at his house once, and we were supposed to go out. And he still hadn't showered and all that. So he was like, "Yeah, just mess around with those turntables, man." I was like, "Okay." So then I just started messing around with him, and then every other time I went to his house, I was like, "Yo, let me try that again," you know? And then because I had like the musical background from being in a band and knowing the timing of playing with other musicians, mixing records was just like, it was simple, you know? It was like the timing I already had in my head from being in a band. He was actually kind of upset about it too. He's like, "How the hell are you so fucking good at this so quick when I've been trying to do this like a year?" You know?
Yeah.
So that led to me going to a rave, and then I heard those. Like I was a bass player in a band, so I liked the low end already. And then when I heard the bass lines coming out of those bins, I was like, "Holy fuck! What did you just do to me for bringing me here, man?" Yeah, and never looked back since. I'm fucking 37, still doing it. So.
I was gonna say, yeah, and you're still screwing around with those decks today.
Yeah.
Well, the thing that you touched on something that I think is important for people to understand. Rudiments of theory in music and stuff are very important when it comes to learning not just production but turntables as well, because you need to count music, you need to know rotations, measures, bars.
Exactly. Yeah. I've always said that from day one. I was like, it's almost a bit of a mathematical thing. If you can count numbers in your head, if you're even semi decent in math, you can figure out the way music structures when you're spinning. You know what I mean? I don't know if that makes sense to you, but that's
totally
how I sort of do it with numbers and counting and shit.
I guess this might be inappropriate for me to say, but often I'll profoundly say to people, the only reason why I'm good at music is because I'm a Jew and I'm good with numbers.
Well, I'm a newbie, so I'm right up there with you with being good with numbers, if you know what I mean.
I'm technically what they call a Jewfie. My mom's from Corner Brook, Newfoundland, and my father was Jewish, but so technically in the Jewish faith I'm not supposed to be, but I won't go deep down into that, but my friends growing up called me Jewfie because I was a Jewish newfie.
Hey, my best friend's a Jew, man. It's all good.
There you go. We always throw that one out. It's like when you're being racist. Like, dude, I have a black cat. I'm not racist. What do you mean?
Fuck off.
But no, go into what you're saying about mathematics and music. It's definitely in there. When people talk about, for instance, hip-hop to drum and bass, it's 90 to 180. And so people will say, so what do you do? Speed up your rap when you do a drum and bass? And
It's halftime, man.
It's halftime, exactly. I'm like, it's the same time. It's just you're hearing, quarter notes, I'm doing sixteenths, and then vice versa. That's what occurs.
Exactly. And it's the same thing with spinning old school with new school. So a lot of old school revolves around that 32-bar loop, whereas a lot of new school is more like the 16-bar loop.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's interesting too. So I guess that build comes, the
Because
drop comes quicker.
The two 16s repeated within that 32-bar loop, whereas in old school, that 32-bar loop is like sort of like an original all the way through that 32-bar loop, and then that loop is repeated.
Well, then people are just getting bored. They're getting lazy. That's what it is.
Some of the best parts about the music is the repetitiveness of it, though. Like the hypnotic part behind it.
You know what?
The minimal part, like it's almost sometimes the space between more than the note that's being played. And I find that's why I like new school a little better. There's more space into it,
You almost sound like you're talking about jazz. It's not the notes you do hear, it's the ones they're not playing, right?
Well, it applies in all kinds of music.
I get you. I play this kind of stuff in my office sometimes, and I happen to put on a techno house essential mix. I think it was a Carl Cox or something. But anyways, I threw it on, and somebody in my office is like, dude, I don't mind that other stuff, but turn this off, because to him it sounded like someone had hit the record player and it was just ding, 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 ding. And he just doesn't get it though, right? I'm like, you don't get it, man. But
I'd say when you hear if someone comes from like a rock background or like a country background or something like that, when you play something repetitive, they don't capture the vibe that we might capture because, let's be realistic. You and I have pretty much grown on repetitive music. It's the norm to us, but someone outside of that, they might be like, "What the fuck is this shit, dude? Turn it off."
I get it.
Which is like, I don't even play drum and bass at work because I know most of the dudes I work with are going to be like, yeah, but turn this shit off.
Well, but I would say the drum and bass, maybe aside from the new school stuff, because I'm not, I guess, too apparent towards it, but when somebody says something like that, if I have a house or a techno song set going, I will switch to drum and bass and go, to me, house techno, they'll throw a song on and then they'll start going to the mixer and tweaking with all the levels. Whereas drum and bass, it's more about beat matching and playing the next tune. Maybe having a double drop, but getting that next tune in. So I'll say to them, listen to this. This is changing. But like you just said, to the ignorant ear, they go, no, it sounds like the same shit to me.
Yeah, exactly. And it's an outside, like the same way. If you went into like, let's just say Swedish death metal. So you went into that scene and there was something that made you uncomfortable about the scene, but to everybody else, that's the norm. That's the best way to explain it. Like you might go in there and you hear a guy growling at like a really low growl, and you're like, well, that's fucking weird. But then to everybody else in that scene, that's the norm. Which is the same way they might look at drum and bass. You know what I mean? The repetitiveness, the high screeching noises, or like the drums are too fast, or something like that.
Yeah.
That's the way to explain it, because we're all from different areas.
Well, and the other thing I say is drum and bass or any electronic music, to deeply understand and appreciate and really like it, you have to understand it. It's not like country where you can put it on and it's either good or not. You either like it or you don't. You don't have to be explained how to listen to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's simple.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, let's jump out of the spinning. When did you first get into producing?
Around 2007. So I've been going around 10 years now. I got into it. A friend of mine, Shane Jackson, Once Prodigal. He makes like some down tempo, like trip hop kind of stuff.
Okay.
And sorry, excuse me. Him and I started using Reason 2.1 or something like that together, and I started making like really aiming dark roller stuff with him, and just learning the program and stuff like that. And then didn't really take it too seriously for a while, and then I met with a guy called J-Line, and he's a pretty good producer, and he taught me a whole bunch of stuff, which pretty much put in like a fire under my ass. And then I had the ability to like write and like finish full tunes, which was the problem I had at the beginning, was actually finishing a tune, making it all like the effects and polish it up to make it sound good. That was the part I really couldn't do at the beginning. But after working with J-Line, he taught me like basis. So ever since then, I've just been taking what he taught me and then learning new stuff on the tutorials or whoever I work with, and just keep going. But
well, now let's talk about 2007 for a little bit here. I think I met you back then. I do remember J-Line. I remember when he lived here for a little bit. Did you meet him before he came here, or did you meet him while he was here?
I met him while he was here at a party he was playing at. I was familiar with his music because I'm a jump up guy.
That's what I meant. Sorry. Yeah, you obviously.
I knew about his music and all that, and I met him at like in the smoking area or something like that, and we hit it off. We were just shooting the shit, and he invited me to come over for dinner one time. That he'd make me dinner, so I was like, "Fuck yeah, I'll come over and have dinner with you, bud." And then we just became buddies. He used Reason, I used Reason. It was just common sense for me to like suck every bit of information out of the guy I could, So he was actually really helpful for months and months and months. Took the time and like drilled all this shit into my head, the like techniques I still use today. So
I think it's funny when anyone talks about using Reason and then you just refer to it being common sense. And I know you didn't mean to do a pun, but I'm like, is that a pun?
Common sense because we both use the same program.
Yeah, same sequencer. That's it. And the other attachment I think people use is called Logic. Am I right?
Yeah, I use Logic as well.
So honestly, this is funny.
Reason's my main bitch.
It's just funny to hear people. Yeah, I use Reason and Logic. It's just common sense. Like, what, is common sense a third program? No. I'm just saying that it's common sense to use Reason and Logic.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, like, my head's so far into sound. Like, I'm such a sound nerd that I guess I don't really think of outside of it.
It's great. You know what? One thing that I remember about you, Brockout, like, we didn't know each other very well, but we had mutual friends and we'd bump into each other in places. Every time I'd see you, you had your head in the turntables and the headset on. You'd lift off the ear to say hello, but then back. You kind of remind me of Biggs in a way, in that sense. In that, that's all you lived and you loved. And we're talking back in those days, so I would see you in one place at one time, you'd be spinning, and then I'd see you 24 hours later at another part of the city at a different time of day, and you'd be spinning. So
Yeah, dude, I've always been a really committed guy when it comes to that, you know?
definitely, always been. When it comes to your production, where can we hear it, and can we expect anything new?
Oh, man, I have a lot of projects on the go right now. And, but the best place you can hear my stuff, if you're looking to buy, Beatport or iTunes, there's a bunch on there. If you're into streaming, you can check on Spotify. There's tons on there as well. You can also check my SoundCloud. It's soundcloud.com/BrockoutDMB. I usually put something up every other month or every month.
I'll put the link down below, so please share that link, and I'll make sure I post it, okay?
I will, yeah.
Okay, we're rolling into the last couple questions. What would you say is the biggest change? You said you started in 98. We're 20 years later now? Am I doing my math right? Yes, 20 years later.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy to think that, right? 20 years.
I don't. Yeah, I don't even want to think about that, man.
Yeah. I'm actually 22, man. He's lying. Yeah.
What would you say is the biggest change you've noticed in our scene?
Since like back then.
From back then, you know what? You can break it down if you could say there's different segments. Go ahead, but yeah, what's the biggest change?
Well, the biggest thing for me is, that I've noticed is a bit of like a segregation. I mean, nobody wants to talk about it, but it's there. You know, like in like late 90s, early 2000s, there was no other question except for, oh, you like drum and bass jungle? Sweet. That's it. That's all you need to know. Now it's sort of like, oh, I like Liquid, or I like old school. I like jump up. I like this, I like that. And I'll only go to those parties because that's what I like. That's a little bit of a segregation I've noticed within the last, I don't even know how many years, but it's been there for a while. Whereas like back in the day, it was like, it didn't matter. We're all fucking junglists. We're all going to the same fucking parties. I got a smile and a handshake and a hug for everybody, you know? And maybe it's just me getting older and I'm thinking about shit more than I was back then, clearly, but it just seems a little segregated more than it was when it was all like, you know, think about the Better Living Center days and like at the docks every other weekend and stuff like that. Nobody gave a shit if it was fucking jump up. Nobody gave a shit if it was old school. It was just, we're all junglists, man. Let's party.
Well, you know what? You saying that's made me internalize your thought, and maybe I'll expand on it more after we're done talking. But this is what I would say to that. We didn't used to have, in my opinion, DJs that were jump up DJs or DJs. Like when I look back to they call Neurofunk, when Evil Intent started coming out, for me that was the first time I heard a subgenre occurring within jungle drum and bass, where you had these people who weren't your typical junglists. They were rough. They wanted the heavy. And jump up and that was always played as a mixture. You didn't have a DJ who came in and he was a jump up DJ. He just had a couple jump up songs. Maybe he dropped some Ronnie Size or something, because I don't know, Ronnie Size was always had that jumpy kind of feel to him to me. But as the music, I guess, has evolved, people have somewhat compartmentalized themselves by saying, I am a jump up DJ, or I am a Neurofunk DJ. And as a result of that, the crowds, I think, are swaying towards them as well. They're saying, and this is, I don't want to get too convoluted, but the promotion companies, for the most part, are usually, you know, the guy who's doing the promotion, all the DJs that are his friends, and then the people that follow them. You know what I mean? It's not necessarily a guy saying, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, just the whole statement, the whole DJ, the guy and his friends party thing. I see people post stuff about that, and it's a little bit of a nerve tingler to me, because that's not necessarily true, man. That's just a part of someone being bitter and thinking that way. There's a lot of these guys who are on these lineups, they all fucking deserve to be there, man. They're all really good DJs. Yeah, they're all buddies, because it's part of the scene, you know. It's not like they were friends since they were fucking like 10. They all met each other in the scene. They're all good DJs. They work together. They're level-headed people. They deserve to be where they're at.
Here's
they're all buddies and they try to take over the scene. That's just, you know what, dude, do something about it then. Get up there and be with them.
Yeah,
make
Jerry.
your own music. Make your own sets. Throw your own parties.
What I would say to what you're saying, I agree with you, okay? But what I would say, because here's the thing, like if I was a struggling artist and I was saying this as a bitter person, I would get what you mean. But I think there is validity in saying that these promoters are looking at people who've paid their dues. So sometimes people will get onto a lineup not necessarily because they're the best, but because they deserve to be. I am one of those people, and I was saying that actually to Mr. Brown. When I'm not really out there anymore, but when I had a radio show, I had bookings every week, and I wasn't the best MC. Why was I getting booked? Because I was hustling. I was out there promoting drum and bass on behalf of Toronto. And so here's the thing. So when I hear people say it, I get it, but I'm with you when I say, well, then fucking do something about it. Throw your own party. Go make some music. Why do you think they're not putting you on the flyer? Because you're not doing anything.
Do you expect me to come hunt you into your basement so I can book you? Like, fuck off, bud.
I'm with you, Jerry. I'm with you 100%, man. But there is a sense of when I say, like, when a promoter goes to throw a party, for instance, like, and I don't want to say that I was better at this, because I honestly, when I would book my parties, when I did Red Out, I always had Dubcom on the flyer. You know, I always had Decipher. I always had DS1. These were my boys, you know, no matter what I was doing, they were going to be on the party, you know what I mean? And those are...
Yeah, well, let's just stop right there. Those guys are all very talented dudes, man. It's not like they're out there clanging records together and you book them just because they're your boys. Exactly. They're good dudes. They're fucking good-ass DJs. They're
great producers and DJs, and they fit a certain sound that I was going for, which was I wanted the heavy sound of drum and bass, and I wanted it to be live, and I wanted it to be 100% their music. So they were all producers, they were DJs, and they all had the ability to do live PA. So it was very focused towards that. But for instance, I don't see a promoter today, and correct me if I'm wrong, wanting to throw a jump up party and then booking nothing but jump up DJs. Would you agree with that?
If it was a jump up themed party?
Yeah.
If it was like, hey, this is a jump up jam and he books all jump up guys, yeah, well, it makes sense.
And do you think
you're not gonna throw an old school drum and bass party and then book fucking Logan D?
I get you.
Know what I mean? You're gonna want to book Kenny Ken, or you're gonna want to book his dad, Mickey Fenton.
Now let me ask you. No, I get you 100%. So let me ask you. You throw that old school party. You book Kenny Ken. Based on your previous statement, back in the day, everyone would come out to see it. Whereas now, you'd see only the old school junglists, the people that appreciate that style of music, would show up. Is that what you're saying?
No, because everyone's got that bit of like memory, you know. Fucking remember back in the day, Kenny Ken was so awesome. I'll go see him just because of that, regardless. And that's why a lot of like the old guys, they get when they're coming to town, the parties are always full because everybody's got that, you know, the way of thinking. You know, I had a good time back in the '90s or early 2000s, and I loved him then, so I must love him now, regardless of what he's playing. You know, that's the way I am personally, anyway.
No,
I'm not one of those people who I try not to like say I'm not going to go to that party because he's been fucking this or that. You know, if I enjoy the guy's tunes or if I enjoy the DJ sets, I'll go check him out, regardless.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. When it comes to the Kenny Ken thing, I could say I'm guilty as a person. No matter what, when he's on a flyer, I'll be there for the nostalgia and for the respect of who Kenny Ken is.
Exactly. So, if you weren't an old school guy, you would go just because of the nostalgia of Kenny Ken.
There you go.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, and I like that we talked about that because there is a meme floating around right now, and you may have seen it too, where it basically says promotion company, DJ's name, all my friends. Exactly, right? I think we both saw the same meme, and to be honest, buddy, I reacted this. I laughed, I chuckled, you know, when I saw it, because but the people who are clicking it and are saying the things like, yeah, it's so true. I'm like, get off your ass and do something, man.
Well, dude, I'll tell you right now, I can tell you exactly that's the way it is, because I took a year or two off just to get myself together, personal reasons, and I stopped going to the weeklies, I stopped going to all the big parties, and I stopped showing my face, and I stopped getting booked. You know what I mean? I didn't get booked because I wasn't going to those parties, I wasn't networking, I wasn't doing my thing, wasn't releasing music, wasn't making music. My time off was awesome. Now I'm back to going to parties again, back to making music, back to releasing, and now I'm getting more gigs. So it's the way it is. I'll tell you right now, if you want gigs, get off your fucking ass and do some work.
Well, one thing I'd say, and you won't tout your own horn, I guess, you're getting bookings because the music you make is better than other people's music.
Well, I'm not going to tell you that, but I'm working hard, dude. I'm doing what I can.
I'll tell you that, man. The music, if you guys haven't heard Brockout, I think I said this to you at the radio show a couple weeks ago. I still, in my head, remember your Willy Wonka sample. and that drop. And you said, you're like, oh, I'm always using movie samples. So that's the infamy of Brockout, is check out the movie samples. And
yeah, I was big on stealing stuff from movies for a long time. I mean, sampling stuff from movies for a long time.
it's heavy too, man. It's heavy. It's like
yeah.
We're on the 20-year anniversary actually of Stevie Hyper D passing away, and
yeah, it's sad too. Like R.I.P. Hyper D, and you know, like we get another fallen soldier recently, Stormin. You know, he's like this generation's Hyper D, pretty much. You know, like it's gonna be R.I.P. Stormin everywhere you go. R.I.P. Hyper D. So it's sad. People are dying in the scene. You know, about our life.
Well, and for those who don't know who MC Stormin was, Google him. He was an amazing MC. He was a pioneer. He was around in the time of Stevie Hyper and carried more of a host and a strong voice from what I remember of him. I hadn't heard Stormin in years.
He's the ultimate hype man, dude.
Yeah, he was like that. He was a very good, like a GQ or a Dynamite. And from what I know, he passed away from skin cancer, which he had been battling for years. And yeah, check him out, man, because you're right. We did lose a pioneer and a guy who influenced many. I was talking to somebody yesterday or the day before about emceeing and what our job is on the microphone. And this person was talking about having a message. And I said, although it's great that some people have a message on the microphone, I don't know if the rave is the place for it. You know, our job as MCs isn't to talk about our daddy issues or how inspired we are by things. That's not what we're there to do. We're there to talk about what the DJ's doing, big up the crowd, get the crowd to dance more and make more noise and liven up the party. Now, I don't want to take away from MCs that are coming with lyrical content that has backing, but in my opinion, that's not my job as an MC at a party. And
yeah, I love working with those guys. Like with A2 and Z specifically, I'm just throw that out there. They're both pretty lyrical guys.
Very
they
lyrical.
Talk about more than just what the DJ's doing.
Yep.
But I've been working with those guys for so long that I know how to like itch them a little bit with certain kind of tunes to make them hyper. You know, that's a good feeling. So.
And that's great. That's great. And here's the thing, and that's why I'm not saying that there's not a place for it. I'm just saying that growing up listening to the guys I grew up listening to, which I wouldn't say Stormin was necessarily one of them, but GQ and Navigator and even Stevie Hyper, I couldn't chat like Hyper, but I knew I could command a mic.
He's one of a kind, dude.
He's definitely one of a kind. He's so skibbity, he's so shabba. It's like these guys are all one of a kinds in a way. I tried to just utilize my strength, which was my voice, and work on hosting. So guys like Stormin were definitely guys who, maybe not him directly, but I'm sure he influenced people who influenced me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. He is, legends, dude. The legends die, and it sucks.
What's the Sandlot saying? Heroes get remembered, but legends will never die?
That's it, man.
But hey,
Sandlot.
Remember that? That's classic. Come on.
The little ginger kids are the best, man.
Smalls.
You're killing me, Smalls.
Killing me, Smalls. How can you have some more of something you haven't had yet? Anyways, Mr. Brockout, thank you for taking the time to chat.
All right, sir. Thank you for having me.
Of course.
It.
And like I said, I've been saying this to people. When I do get a better setup, I hope you'll come back and chat again soon.
For sure.
All right.
No problem.
All right, buddy. You have a good day, eh?
I got a face for radio anyway, bud. So.
Dude, your face is blasted on this video. You're gonna see it when I post it. So your pretty face will be right. All right, buddy. You have a good day, eh?
Yeah, you too, buddy.
All right.
Yeah.
Take care. Ciao. All right, there he is, DJ Brockout. Thank you, man, for taking the time to chat. I really like that we touched in on that question because it's somewhat controversial, and I love when passion comes out in people. So, anyways, thanks for tuning in. As always, guys, till next time, peace out.